La STM vous souhaite la bienvenue à bord.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Metro Anarchy. My name is Fleek. What is Metro Anarchy? It is a city skyline, city fixing video series focused exclusively on public transport. We only do public transportation. I don't do surface roads or traffic manager stuff. There are other people out there that do a much better job of that. So anything I would be doing on that front would simply be a knockoff. So right now I'm finding cities on the Steam workshop that have some traffic problems and removing all the existing public transportation, rebuilding that public transportation system, and then seeing if we can't get the traffic back up and running. This beautiful city is Gatomale. Don't know what language that is or if it's after an existing city. I couldn't find anything, but good looking town. Traffic, however, is pretty low, so let's see if we can't get that public transportation system working a little bit. I use primarily metros and buses. If people would like to see other forms of public transportation, let me know. In future videos I can try different kinds, but metro and bus are the most efficient, most cost effective, so I typically stick with those, but definitely let me know what you guys want to see. On that note, love interaction. Send emails, comment below, send ideas for upcoming episodes. As always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and always mash on that bell to get notified when new episodes are posted. I'm shooting for once every 2 weeks, give or take. We'll try to stay on that schedule, but if there is interest in having them more often, I'm certain that I will speed that up at some point. So here we have our person going to work in the city of Gatomale, and they are running up on some pretty awful traffic here. So let's get stuck in and see what we can do with this public transport system. All right, so here is the city of Gatomale, and let's take a look, first of all, at what public transportation they have in place. And they've got some metro, a little ring metro of some sort here, and then one line running out to this other port section at the other end of town. And from a traffic standpoint, yeah, that traffic is really bunched up in this area out here, so definitely going to take out this metro system, and I think we'll go with a basic grid system and put some lines kind of north-south from this view, and then at least 2 going east-west along the bottom here, and hopefully we can then get that traffic cleared up. The other main traffic is really over in here on this main set of highways, so hopefully the internal metro can take care of that, and we won't continue to have problems based on the out-of-town people coming in. So how do I get rid of the existing metro? Well, that is where we use our wonderful Move It mod. Actually, let's get out of the traffic view first, and then once you're in the Move It mod, go to Underground, and then you want to select the kinds of nodes and use the selector tool, and then everything other than segments off, and then that will allow you to highlight a section, and you can see that it's just the underground, and then you can use the bulldoze button and that removes that. You have to take out each individual station. Use the single selector tool if you want to get rid of the individual stations, but you can hold down Control and select more than one station at a time. once you have gotten the segments out of the way, that will, allow you to, oh, I keep messing it up. Select more than one at a time, and, oh, no, it's not letting me. It's the shift button. Way to go. So use the shift key and then bulldoze the individual stations, and then you switch back to the segments. So I'm going to finish this up, and I'll be right back once I've gotten this taken care of. One quick note on using the Move It mod to delete the underground metro systems. If you're doing it, you can, in the underground mode, select pretty much everything, and because you're underground, you're not selecting anything on the surface, obviously, and because you have everything deselected except for segments, you're only selecting the road and metro segments. However, do note that if you have an area like this where you have some underground roads as well, if you do use the selector tool, you are going to select those underground roads. So don't hit that bulldoze when you've got those selected. You just need to be careful around this section and use that bulldoze tool a little bit judiciously to get exactly the segments that you want, and do not get those underground road segments. I made that mistake and deleted this underground junction, and it did not help. So just be careful on that. A quick note. So we'll be right back once I've gotten the rest of this taken care of. In my haste and enthusiasm to destroy the underground metro stations and tracks, I forgot to take a look at exactly what the traffic level was at. So it's been paused the entire time, so it hasn't changed. Traffic flow at 14%. We did take a look at the traffic map, but I didn't point out the percentage that the traffic had dropped to. So let's go ahead and go in. We've gotten rid of all of the infrastructure. Let's go ahead and get rid of the lines. So go into the transport and bring up our line details, and just go ahead and delete out all 4 of these bus lines. And then do the same with the metro. You can see the bus is about 370 residents and tourists combined using the bus every week, and then just over 1,000 using the metro system. So we'll do the same for the metro system. Delete out those 4 lines, and hopefully, oh, unhappy people, don't worry. We will rebuild the train. We're not going to be touching the train in this episode, and the ship, that's actually not a ferry, it's the in and outbound ships through the ports. And then as well, we have some airline passengers that are coming in on the airport, and we're not going to mess with that at all. So let's get started with rebuilding this metro system. One of the first things that I do is just take a look at the traffic routes to kind of see, make sure that I have a good idea. And this is a fairly straightforward looking city, but if you grab the traffic routes tab and then click on a segment, it will tell you where exactly everybody is going. So from this side of town, you can see they are traveling down over here and through the main part of town. Let's check out probably the similar there. We have some people coming down along the waterfront. These low density residential areas, so this is all residential in here, don't have too much traffic because they are low density. But let's just take a quick peek and see. Yeah, see, they're not traveling too far on these minor roads. In the central part of the city, it's a little bit more built up. It is a little bit more high density in the center area. And the same thing, it's really a lot of east and west traffic. And then coming back from out here, let's take a look. Yeah, same thing. really traveling back through the middle of the city. So hopefully this grid metro will help us out with this crosstown traffic, because it doesn't seem like they're having too much trouble getting north and south as we are oriented here. It's really that east and west. So we're going to start with 2 spurs along here, and then finish out our grid with some spurs running up north and south, and see how that works. One other thing I take a look at to get an idea of how to build the metro grid is try to figure out how far people will walk in a city, so that you know the density or frequency of the stops of the stations that you need to put in. And the way to do that is, again, you go to your traffic routes and deselect everything except pedestrians. And then let's go in and take a look at, here we've got one already selected here, and you can see that people will walk a fair distance. Some folks will walk out, as far as almost 2/3 across the city, but they definitely, from this spot here, will walk at least all the way up to this main road, and then all the way down to the waterfront. So if we come down on the waterfront and click, they will, again, walk almost all the way up to this center road. So I don't think that we're going to need more than just 3 stops along these north-south metro lines. Originally I was thinking that we might have 4, do one here, one here, one here, and then one further up, but I think that we might be able to get away with just having 3 here, and along this section up here in the Iron Mountain area, we may have to put an extra one up here. It's one of the things I love about City Skylines, is thinking about, hey, I live in this neighborhood right below the iron mines. What beautiful, right between the iron mines and what are these? Solar power plants. And over here is the incineration plants. I was thinking about living in that part of town. Would be super fun, super fun. All right, so let's get started building this first spur. So as I get started here on this first metro line, and just let you know that the assets that I use are Joe Boy BV's simple metro stations. Now, I only have 3 loaded at this particular time. I use the 90-degree single track, the cross track at level 1 and level 2, and then the 2 horizontals, although I probably won't use this style in this particular build. These are going to be the main 2 that I'm going to use in this episode. However, there are a ton of other ones. For simplicity's sake, I don't use the different levels. If you want to know more about all of the different multi-track stations, check out the mini tutorial I did on multi-track stations. I go in depth there. You don't need mods to use these, and they work really, really, really well for building these grid-based metro systems. So we're going to start out primarily using almost all the 90-degree at level 1 and level 2. So let's go in and find a spot. Looks like we have a nice spot right here. We can start out with that one. And now we want to come up to, get this out of the way, in this area. And I don't mind bulldozing things if I have to, but try and keep it as clean as possible. It doesn't like slope too steep. Well, that's unfortunate. Oh, there we go. We can fit that one in right there. And now there isn't a way across this highway, so let's go ahead and... Oh, slope too steep here as well. Yeah, it looks like we can fit it in over here. And then we'll put one more over here. because this is an end station, let's do just the... Actually, you know what? Let's use that and we'll connect it up to these two. We'll have both of these metro lines run up here and join up here so they can get direct to... And actually, let's put it right there. All right. So now I will drop in and out of time lapse so that you don't have to watch me grind through all of these. And when there's a point to make, I will drop out of the time lapse. So select the metro track. So when I select the metro track here, you have to go underground, so use your page up, page down. It gets you page down, and now we can go ahead and connect these up. I like to use the curved track. Actually, you know what? I lied. I like to use the freeform track because it allows you to build multiple sections onto your metro. Now, one thing to note, I know that you can make these tracks at really odd angles and it still works, but you should really try to make them as clean as possible. You see, it's not going directly into the station there. That won't cause any problems, but you can build tracks with really extreme angles, and it won't keep the trains from going in and out, but it does slow them down, and it can cause delays and problems. So you always want to try and get it, as clean as possible going into that metro station. So when I got to this section of the city, originally I was just going to put one station, one two-track station right in the center here, and then have this east-west spur and this north-south line connect up. But I noticed that if you go to the traffic routes, make sure it's on pedestrians, and click on any of these, they do not cross over anywhere. And one of the reasons for that is that this roundabout does not have pedestrian walkways or the underground or the over walkways. So there's no sidewalks. It's actually I think a highway roundabout, and you need to be careful with that in these situations because it doesn't allow your pedestrian traffic to get across. So there's no way for these pedestrians over here to get over to this side and vice versa. So if we only put one station in there, it would block out one side. So I am then instead going to make a single track station in here. And then we will terminate both lines up in here at this multi-track station. And now these look really close together, and they actually are, but you've got this big freeway running right through the middle, and this blocking that up. So even though they're quite close to each other, it still does make sense to have them. Alright, so now I've got all of the east-west metro stations placed. And now you'll notice here that I only left this one out here. I think I'm going to have this as the terminus of the northern east-west line and also connect up to the southern east-west line. So if riders do want to come out here and change trains, they can to get back to that. So let me connect up these metro stations and we'll be right back. Alright, so now we have all of the metro tracks laid down. Now, you may have noticed I had to cut out one part of the time lapse, and it was because I got completely fouled up, and this is actually a rookie mistake. I should have noticed this. So down here where I have this station, and then this station over here, I was going to be swinging through this area, and the thing that I did not do was take a look at the lay of the land. Now here is a really big change in the height of the topography, and you will run into problems trying to run metro lines through hills like this, and it will say slope too steep, and you're not going to be able to do it just as you normally would. And I actually ran into that with this. You'll see it kind of snakes around here. You just kind of have to massage it through, and I had to do that, and it took me so long that I had to cut out that section of the time lapse. So always make sure of that. The other thing that I didn't notice, I was able to work around it, was the fact that I had these two stations on either side of this underground road, and now you can handle that by using page down and lowering the metro track underneath the road, so it's not that big of a deal, but you should try to avoid it if possible. In this case, I don't actually know what I could have done, because I really needed a station in this area. I guess I could have just moved it down a little bit further here, but that also would have made it just a little bit harder to line this track up. So it worked out, but I did just want to mention that quickly. Where you have underground roads, be careful. You need a decent amount of space. This was just enough because I was able to go down to negative 24 meters to go underneath these sections of underground road. So, all right, well, I will jump in and create the metro lines. You don't need to watch me do that. It's kind of boring, so I will take care of that and be right back. Alright, so we got all of our metro lines laid out nice and pretty, all the different colors. Let's take a look at what we ended up with for metro lines. We ended up with 10 metro lines. I like going through and giving them actual names. Sometimes I'll choose like the Mountain View line here, a district, and give it a district name, or if it'll be descriptive of the central line. You can see that flash in there in the background. That is the line that goes right through the center of the city. So, the central line. I didn't say I was imaginative. I just said I liked to give all of them names. So it is also important to change up the colors, and so it's easy to find your metro lines when you are trying to adjust your stations and the number of vehicles that you have on each line. Now, you run out of colors pretty quickly, so just make sure that, so for example, I have a couple of red, so I have a red down here. This line right here is this reddish color, and then the Mountain View line over here is also red. But because they're not anywhere near each other on the map, that works out just fine. So just make sure that the colors aren't adjoining when you are getting those colors laid out. It just helps you find where the metro stations and metro lines are when you're trying to adjust your metro system. So on the bus side of things, we are going to put a few bus lines in, especially in these areas here, and just try and connect up these metro stations. So if people want to travel in between, these are pretty close from a walking standpoint, but having those buses will also keep people from driving to the metro stations. If you follow City Skylines videos, you'll of course have noticed a situation where there's a car coming right out of the metro station. Sometimes you will find that happening with a car just driving up out of the metro station, and in order to keep that from happening, you like to have those bus lines connecting up those metros. So I'll go ahead and throw in those bus lines and be right back. Well, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is that as I was attempting to put the bus lines in, I let things run, and our metro system has taken off. We're up to 4,545 residents and 300 tourists per week using the metro system. So that's a total of 4,800 145, and that is a 380% increase over the previous Metro system. The bad news is actually twofold. There's two bad things. First of all is that the road system down here had one-ways and dead ends, and as I was trying to put the bus lines in, there was just no way to put in any bus lines that made any sense. And so I ended up deciding not to do the bus lines. I let things run for a little bit longer. And the other bit of bad news is the traffic hasn't improved all that much. Now that we were down at 14% and it's up to 23%, and so that's not terrible, but you still have these big traffic jams around all of the freeway entrances, and the big part of that is these cloverleafs. These cloverleaf, they look beautiful, they just don't work in the game all that well unless you do all of the lane mathematics stuff, which as I mentioned, there are other people out there that do that much better, so I'm sure that we could clean all of this up and get some of these working a little bit better. But the focus of this series is just on the public transportation. So one last thing before we sign off. As I was putting in or trying to put in the bus lines and failing miserably, I noticed that the Metro wasn't really taking off, and what I had forgotten was that I had not adjusted the number of vehicles on each line. So go to your transport tab, go into the Metro detail, and then on each line you can go in and adjust the number of vehicles on each line. I found roughly about 100, for every 100 people on a line, one vehicle. It does a pretty good job. It keeps people from backing up at each station, but sometimes that's too much, sometimes that's too little, so just keep an eye on it as it goes. So we will follow the central line through the middle of the city as we wrap up the video. If you have a city that you would like me to work on the public transportation for, send it to me. You can upload it to the Steam Workshop. There are directions in the description below, and you can either email or tweet it to me. Let me know if there are any specific types of public transportation that you would like to see in your city if you do send it to me. Again, I love feedback. Email me, comment, send ideas, tell me what I'm doing well, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Now, right through the middle of the city, all the dead people notifications. It reminds me of the Paris sewer system has a 5-star rating. I don't know why I know that, but so I've got this beautiful metro in this city that is crime-ridden and full of dead people. So, as always, if you like the video, if you like what I'm doing, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, and of course hit the bell if you want to be notified of new videos. And as I mentioned, let me know what you would like to see, and until next time,
mind the gap.